And welcome back. Here we are to our 2024 NCAA Indoor Women's Championship recap. Just like the men, it was a fantastic meet on the women's side. We had a few collegiate records, some all time bests, some surprising performances, but overall, just a great meet. And I think we're headed for an even greater outdoor season. So let's just jump right into it. And, again, this was a great venue, the New Balance track at Boston. It produced a lot of great marks and performances, but we'll get started right away with the team title battle. And no surprise, it was Arkansas. I don't think that things went the way they expected them to completely. There were a few moments where Arkansas certainly did look vulnerable. They weren't their usual selves, but overall, it was a great performance. Now, transitioning to Florida, who finished second, the Gators had a really, really solid weekend. They had some disappointing moments throughout the season. And I think if they had their full team, I think based on what we saw this past weekend, they probably could have won the national title a little bit more convincingly than even Arkansas did. And they even had an opportunity to win the national title this weekend had things shaken up in the mile the way they were hoping them to. But getting started after our first leg, we'll now transition to the second leg, which is the sprints and hurdles. And diving right into it, we look at Brianna Liston of LSU winning the 60-meter dash. I mean, what a talented young sprinter she is. But if you saw that race, she got out very well and held her own because Kayla Jackson made a very strong charge and she got a solid start too. Kayla Jackson of Georgia, and I think we'll be seeing these two probably become rivals in the future. Kayla Jackson, obviously of Georgia from the U.S., and Brianna Liston from Jamaica. So we're going to be hearing those names regularly on the track and field circuit for years to come. Jaden Mays of Oregon finished third, and Jason Sears of Tennessee was a disappointing fourth. I was really disappointed in her race. I think she was still capable of winning the national title had things, fallen into place. She has a 7:04, and even though Liston ran 7:03, which is now the number two mark all time, I still think that Sears had the capability of winning. Unfortunately, she did not here. Transitioning to the 200, another talented youngster, Jamija Ford of the U.S. from South Carolina, another eye-popping mark from this young lady, 22:34 as a freshman. She is the NCAA champion. I don't ever recall a freshman ever being this fast, and I think this is a U20 mark. 22:34 indoors, 22:34 outdoors for a freshman is impressive, let alone indoors. And Coach Tim Hall is doing a great job of developing her. I look forward to seeing what she can do outdoors. I think we're going to get much of the same. This is a very talented young woman and expect for more from her. And, also in that race, heads up to Mackenzie Long of Ole Miss. She ran 22.5 out of lane four. So I think we're going to get even more from her outdoors also, but I still think that Ford will be the cream of the crop. Transitioning to the 400, and I said in the men's videos, I just wanted to highlight this. The Arkansas 400 runners did a lot of heavy lifting. Three of them were in the 200, three of them were in the 400, although we expected possibly as many as five. But they did a lot of load carrying this weekend, competing in both, and it was clearly, rough on them because when they came back for the 200, they finished sixth, seventh, and eighth. So they got the last little bit of points. It was 6 points, but not what we expected. Amber Anning has run 22.5 on the season. She finished last year, ran 23.6 in the 200. But in the 400, she was the NCAA champion. She ran a 50.79. And I do believe if she didn't have to do both the 4 and the 2, she would have ran a lower 400. It was very clear that she was a little bit tired. Nikisha Price, 51 flat, and Rosie F. Young, 51.03. For them to go 1, 2, 3. We have not seen a 400-meter performance like that since the previous days of Curtis Fry in his early days at South Carolina and Bev Kearney at Texas. She did this a couple of times. She always had great group of quarter milers. But I think Arkansas is sort of the new queens in this event. What a great performance they had during the meet. And then transitioning to the 60 hurdles, and this is not really a surprise. I'll just say that this is where I was wrong. So keeping score, I correctly predicted on the women's side the 60, the 200, and the 400-meter champion, but in the hurdles is where I got it wrong. Grace Stark still did perform very well. She finished second with a 7.81, a season best. But our best hurdler came from Jasmine Jones. She even improved upon her number one mark. She went 7.77. So hats off to Jasmine Jones. What a great performance she had. Great start got out to a great start with Jones, but it just seems as the race kept going, Jones's stride was a bit better, and obviously being a taller hurdler gave her, I think, in this race an advantage. Normally they have to lean down as hurdlers when they're that tall, similar to Virginia Powell, ironically of USC. But still, that was an impressive performance by Jones. 7.77. She's an all-time collegiate. I want to say she's third all time. That's just an outstanding race by her. And she did this against the really strong competition of the SEC. Aaliyah Armstrong of LSU did, in fact, finish third, running a 7.94. Now we will move on to the 4x4, our final sprint event of the women. And that is where things got a little interesting. My prediction did not come true here also. So I was 3 out of 5 for the sprints. South Carolina was cleared de facto leader, 3:26.20. Arkansas was DQ'd. They did run 3:25.99, so initially they were the NCAA champion in the 4x4, but disqualified for some bumping and unfortunate. But we will highlight this because their top two quarter milers are not even on the 4x4, and they still won with 3:25.99. And none of them even ran close to what they're capable of. Kaylin Brown did pop off with a 51.4, but she's ran a 50.8. So, I mean, even the B group that won still could have lowered their time had they been fresh. I think the weekend was a bit much on them. I think they were asked to do more than I think what they were capable of. But hats off to them for running the 3:26. 20 on South Carolina, but 3:25.99 Arkansas. South Carolina is a de facto leader, and Jamesia Ford didn't run that incredibly fast split of 50.7. I think having her run both the 4x1 and 4x4 outdoors is a foregone conclusion at this point, and she probably will anchor both, more than likely, with a talented young lady. Now we'll move to the second leg, and we'll discuss the third leg rather, and we'll discuss distance. And we'll get things started right away with the 800, because that was where, again, I got it wrong. Um, but I was pleasantly surprised. I had her finishing second, but Juliet Whitaker of Stanford she just outgunned Michaela Rose of LSU. And I didn't see that. I really did, because Michaela Rose all season, even when she was running 159 low, it looked like she still had more in the tank. And I just thought, oh, she's going to really give a Tingmu's record of 158.4 a scare. And she did not here. She ran 159.8, still under 2 minutes, but she finished second. And the meet record will go to Juliet Whitaker of Stanford. And this is back-to-back years that a Stanford 800-meter runner is the national champion. And back-to-back years where a Stanford runner has run sub 2 minutes indoors. And back-to-back years the Stanford runner has won and broken the meet record. Impressive. J.J. Clark clearly knows what he's doing. Coach, he knows 800-meter runners, and he was clearly the correct hire. Disappointing that he did, not get retained at Tennessee after winning those national championships there. I think the mistake was he was, I think, a little too focused on the women and not focused on the women and men. But here, he's already getting back to championship development because he still has a strong men's team to go along with a strong women's team. And in the mile, this is where there was also some very disappointment in my opinion. Um, Another L for me here. But Maya Ramsden of Harvard, she came into the meet as number one. But I thought Flamina Asico, after watching her run at the SEC championships, I said, oh man, there's no way she loses that. And unfortunately she did. And she finished eighth, Flamina Asico. And Ramsden ran 4:25.13 to set a meet record, a record that has sat since 2015, so almost 10 years, and she went and broke that. There were a total of 6 women under 4:30 What a fantastic field this was. But Astico finishing eighth really hurt Florida's team title points because they only lost by five. And had she even finished second, they win the national title. And that's just, so disappointing for the Florida Gators there. They had the capability, even with a team that wasn't as strong as it had been as early in the season or had predicted. But hats off to Maya Ramsden, 425-13, an outstanding performance. She looked great doing throughout the entirety of that race. And I think she's headed for a very strong outdoor season. And then the where I get it right is the 3K and 5K, and I did correctly predict that Parker Valby would win both. And she was impressive in both. No denying that her in the 5K, running a personal best, a collegiate lead, the meet record, the collegiate record, breaking her own collegiate record that she set last year in early December to begin this season. 14:52:79. Man, this young woman just seems to just keep getting better and better. She does not get phased by the high level of competition she has to go up against. She's a junior, so I think she may be coming back for another year. That would be huge for Florida if she could come back. But she's kind of been the big performer on the team, and she was the big performer of the meet, in my opinion. I predicted that she would be the MVP, and she was. What an outstanding performance in the 5K in particular. She came back Saturday night and won the 3K, running 8:41:50. That's another meet record, not the NCAA record. Caitlin Tui still owns that, but I think Velby is a greater runner, longer distance. So I'm wondering if outdoors she would give the 10K a look, but I think she's a surefire, solid 5K runner. And that, moving from the third leg, we move to our anchor leg, which is our field events. And we had some performances here. The women's high jump is highlighting the fact that Arkansas had a phenomenal year in their jumps. And I said that in the previous recap on the men's side because Rachel Glenn did in fact defeat Lamara Disson of Texas A&M, who was the collegiate record holder, and she did it by matching her collegiate record. So Disson shares the record now with Rachel Glenn, 6'6" 3¼ inches, 2 meters even. But what she has over Disson is she is now the meet record holder. So the best performance ever at the NCAA meet, the best performance ever in that facility. And it just was an outstanding mark by her. Diston was second at 6'5½", 1.97 meters. And Alina Kulichenko of Georgia was third at 6'3¼ 1.91 meters. Same mark as Timmy-Top Adeshina, the freshman of Texas Tech, who finished fourth. I think she kind of cracked under the pressure a little bit because I expected her to possibly get 6'4", 6'5", really be in it with Diston and Glenn. And I think in the end it was really just a Diston and Glenn competition. And I said that in the preview that Rachel Glenn, although she had lost the SEC title, she now knows how to compete against Diston. That was her first time competing against her. And she now has a framework of what to do. And she actually used it. Great coaching and great willing to be coached and development by Rachel Glenn. Now, moving from the high jump, we'll go to the pole vault. And this is another event that I got wrong, unfortunately. But fortunately, because it was the youngster Hannah Mole of Washington who came away as the sole 15-foot jumper, 15-1, 4.6 meters in the pole vault. I did pick Chloe Timberg to win. I'm sure you saw the preview picture of her in the preview video. She is a very bulky, strong pole vaulter. She finished third here, 14.7¼ but hats off to Hannah Mole, being a freshman and unafraid to win a national title. 10 big points for Washington. Then we moved to the long jump, where there was another shock. So far in the field events, I am 0 for 3, yes. You had Sydney Willis of Iowa State. Where did she come from? She was not mentioned in the preview because she hadn't hit a mark like that. In fact, she PR'd a couple of times in this competition. Her the final jump, 22.1½ or 6.74 meters, was the jump that actually did it. She outdueled Claire Bryant, who jumped 6.71 meters, 22.25 feet. 8 points for Florida there, but Sydney Willis. I mean, Iowa State has had a pretty solid jumping program over the years, but they haven't had that champion yet. This is finally their champion, Sydney Willits, who's a junior, so we'll be seeing and hearing more from her. The triple jump also highlighted my shock because there was a name I did not mention in the women's long jump that I'm going to mention now, and that is Achilles Smith. She didn't even make it to the finals in the long jump. Something was clearly not right there. Um, that was a disappointing because she had been the strongest long jumper all year long, and she did not even appear in the triple jump. But my prediction here was correct. I did expect Ruta Lasman of Texas Tech to win. She did that. The best collegiate jump of the year, 47 feet 5 and 3/4 inches, 14.47 meters, over Amelia Strostrand of San Jose State, who jumped 45 feet and a quarter, 13.72 meters. Outstanding performance by Ruta Lasme. She certainly made up for her performance at the Big 12 Championships. And the woman who beat her, Winnie B, finished seventh. So hats off to Ruta Lasme for performing well under pressure and leading the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Moving to the next field event, which will be the shot put, we had no surprise here. So this is another event that I got right. Um, Maya Lesnar, you see that picture. You saw the pictures of her before. Yes, she does appear as strong as her dad, and she had quite the performance. She set a facility record 60 feet 9.5 inches, or 18.53 meters as the number one shot putter. Surprisingly, Jada Ross came in second over Jelani Davis of Ole Miss, who finished third. Lesnar and Ross were the only two athletes over 60 feet, and great performances by both. But Lesnar, a junior, we're going to keep hearing her name because she finds a way to win. She's been consistent all year long. And then in the weight throw, this is where Jelani Davis kind of got back, and this was another prediction I had gotten right. Things worked well for her. She was the first women's champion of the meet because the weight throw was on its own Thursday night. She was the only triple jumper over 80 feet, 81, 4.5, or 24.8 meters. What an outstanding performance by Davis. What an outstanding performance by Ole Miss in general because Jasmine Mitchell came in third, even though it wasn't her best throw. 16 points in just one throw event, and with her performance in the shot put at 22 points in throwing for Ole Miss. So they're going to stay in it no matter what. Shelby Frank was second of Minnesota, 22.69 meters, 74 feet 5.5 inches. Now moving to the heptathlon where there was a shock. Excuse me, not heptathlon, the pentathlon for women. I was noticeably disappointed in Allie Jones of USC because I was really convinced that she was going to win this pretty convincingly. I've watched her all year long, and she's been solid in the five events. I even said in my preview that she could possibly win four of the five events. Now, she was in the top four in four events. First in the hurdles, fourth in the shot put, second in the long jump, third in the 800. But she was 15th in the high jump, and that seemed to be what did her in because she was climbing from that point forward and never could quite get to the point total. And it was shame on me. Jaden O'Brien, the defending champion, I did not mention her in my preview. She had to put up a mark this season that made me go, oh, wow. She won without even doing a personal best, and she correctly defended her title, 4,497 points. She won one event, and that was the shot put, but she did well throughout the meet. Um, Christine Blazovica of Texas also didn't finish first or second. She was third, and second was Janelle Rogers of Ball State, 4,430 points. So she was literally on the heels of uh, Jaden O'Brien of Notre Dame throughout the entire meet. But hats off to Jaden O'Brien for putting me in my place and correctly defending her NCAA title. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our women's recap. As you can tell, it was a fantastically fast and phenomenal meet. Great marks. I think we're headed for a really solid outdoor season. And let me also, because I'm just now noticing I didn't mention it and I have it on my sheet here, is the DMR. Um, BYU surprised us. I did not have BYU winning. I think Washington disappointed me a great bit, finishing all the way in 11th. But no surprise, some of the bigger runners did not compete on the DMRs because they were focused on the individual events. But BYU, they're either going to win it or be in it. That's just how it's been for them. Notre Dame was second and Florida was third. So they did get a good performance out of the DMR without Parker Valvey. But BYU, especially in that last lap, that miler, she just kicked it into overdrive, leading them to 10:51:42. Hats off to BYU. And please like, subscribe, provide any feedback that you have. I look forward to a fantastic outdoor season with you. This is the first week. Remember, there won't be probably any eye popping times, but things will get really good pretty quickly. So we'll speak with you next time. Thank you again for your support.